He's quite enjoying life these days. But I started in McLaren hanging around in 1968, known as the Nameless Mate, because I used to creep in and help with gearboxes and things like that. There's still a fair amount of Kiwi involvement in McLaren, and there's a huge amount of Kiwi involvement up and down the pit lane in IndyCar racing, in Murph's V8s, in Formula One, everything. There's a massive amount of Kiwi involvement. The three of the top managers at McLaren's are Kiwis even today. So yes, there is a huge involvement still. It's, I don't think it'll change necessarily, because we still see drivers and young engineers going from here to get jobs in other teams. I'm involved in Motorsport New Zealand Scholarship Trust, and we're bringing on young drivers, and all their aspirations are to go overseas, and some are going overseas now, likes of Richie Stanaway, Brendan Hartley. So there's a continual feed of people, but it is very difficult for drivers to get jobs overseas simply because they haven't got the money to do it. But as far as mechanics and engineers are concerned, there's lots of them, all up and down the place. We, 3 or 4 years ago, we were at Indianapolis, and there's a pub at Indy where a lot of Kiwis go for a drink, and we went there one night, and there must have been 100 Kiwis in the place, because we took up some V8 supercar films for TVNZ to show them. And strangely enough, we brought the camera out, TVNZ camera out, to just take a bit of film of these guys. Within 30 seconds, there were only 20 left, because none of the rest had job permits, work permits. They didn't want to be seen on camera. They just disappeared like rats in the night. It was very funny. So we realised then, put the camera away and just have fun. And you know, but there is a huge Kiwi involvement. McLaren still has, although they don't publicise it, and it's not well publicised, there is still an acceptance of the heritage within McLaren. Not with Ron Dennis necessarily, but Martin Whitmarsh is very aware of the heritage of McLaren, and of course the Bruce McLaren Trust in this country, with Jan McLaren is around here somewhere. They keep sitting at the back there. She and the Trust keep contact with McLaren, and it's a pretty difficult job these days because you're dealing with a massive corporation, but Kiwi involvement is still there. Sorry? No, there hasn't been a Kiwi logo on the car for a long, long, long time. Everybody thinks the swoosh on the side of the car is actually a deformed Kiwi. It's not. It's known as the swoosh. It was a designed emblem, logo, that happened to look like, if you really want to be Kiwi and really want to look at it sideways, it looks like a deformed Kiwi, but it's not. It was a simple marketing thing. There hasn't been a Kiwi on the car since, certainly since Ron took over anyway.
Chris, somebody once said, and it might have even been Ian Young going back to your day, that if you picked up a stone and threw it down pit lane, there's a fair chance you'd hit a Kiwi, because there were so many. I mean, there were obviously the trio at the top in terms of drivers, but mechanics and people involved in all forms of motor racing, tyres, etc. in your day. It was the Kiwi connection was huge.
Well, very much so, yeah.
Rightio, here we go.
Yeah, my question is very simple for both the two key drivers at the table.
So Michael and Chris.
Chris and Greg. What was the most satisfying race you've had, and what were the elements of that race?
Greg, you go for it.
You shocked Mike so much he spilled his water.
I'm devastated.
He's shocked.
But you didn't want to ask him what his greatest race was.
It's quite difficult to answer, because I don't think I can particularly put down one race itself as being more special. I mean, I have had, there's nothing quite like coming back home and racing in such as the V8 Supercar Championship, bringing that championship, coming to New Zealand and being a Kiwi involved in that championship and being successful in it. So, I mean, the likes of Pukekohe, you know, in 2001 when the first outside Australia round of the championship was bought here in 2001, to win that event was phenomenal. It was just an incredible feeling, you know, doing it in front of a home crowd and in a championship that was really domestically an Australian championship. So that was incredibly special. But then, you know, being able to achieve a win at Bathurst growing up all those years, sitting in front of that TV, like a lot of you I'm sure have done, that first or second weekend of October, sitting there and watching that race, which is, you know, synonymous amongst motorsport lovers around the world, not just New Zealand and Australia, but to achieve a result there and win that race was again something very, very special to me. I suppose if we try and pick one little moment for me, the best 2 minutes and 6.85 seconds of my life was at Bathurst in 2003 when I put the car on pole there in the shootout. That was for one single moment of my career. That's probably it to date for sure.
Yeah, very much as Greg said. I think you try and not have special moments because. As you try not to have favourite circuits, because if you do, you're inclined to try harder at those than you are on the less favourite ones. So, but yeah, there was certainly some special moments. Obviously, winning Le Mans with Bruce McLaren was very special. Winning the New Zealand Grand Prix was special because it's, winning a home country's event, I think, is just as winning at Pukekohe for Greg was special. But yeah, I have to say there were probably some moments that I can think of which didn't end up in a good result, but when you felt that you were on top of the game and you know you should have won and whatever.